Are your most important needs being met? Now, I'm not necessarily talking about those needs being met by others, like your partner or your really close friends or even your family members. I'm talking about your emotional needs, your own emotional needs from within. The things that are most important to you, are those things being met and fulfilled on a regular basis? Now, if you're not entirely sure what I'm talking about, I'm going to be in this talk talking about some key signs that your needs are not being met. And then we're going to look at the 9 core emotional needs that pretty much all human beings have. And you might find that some of those needs are being met. You might find that some of those needs are not being met at all. You might find that some of those needs are being kind of met, but you need to be focusing more on certain areas. And it's all going to become so much more clear at the end or by the end of our talk today. So stay tuned. I think you're going to get a lot out of this one, really understanding more about ourselves and what our needs are and what we need to be doing to be meeting our own needs. If you're new here, welcome to our incredible little corner on the internet. Take a second, introduce yourself in the comment section below. If you are back, it is always good to have you. If you are a shifter, a member of my membership community, the Shift Society, identify yourself as a shifter in the comments. Always good to have shifters here. Always good to have all of you here. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, the buttons are out right down there. Then you'll get the new videos. If you get something out of the video, if I could ask you to like the video, that would be awesome. That just helps get these talks, this free information in front of more people. Either way, my name is Kristina, and I am a registered clinical therapist, a researcher, a coach, and the creator of my membership community that I just mentioned, the Shift Society, where we are taking this work, these tools and this information to a deeper level. You're being supported and guided the whole way through. You can get more information about the Shift Society and find out when the next time is that we're going to be opening up registration so that you can be ready for that and get in there when we do. I help heart-centered humans break through the crap that is holding them back so that they can like themselves and their lives more every day. And to be honest, when we are not meeting our own needs, when we're not paying attention to what's important to us and meeting those needs on a regular basis, it can create a lot of crap in our lives. It can really hold us back. And we're going to talk about what that looks like. And we'll just jump right into it and look at some key signs that your needs are not being met, that you are not meeting your own emotional needs. And some of these signs can look like if you feel really alone. Not just like, you feel kind of lonely sometimes, but you just feel sort of alone and disconnected from your community, from your family, from your friends, just from society as a whole. You just feel kind of like you're this island floating around alone through the world and don't really know where to plant your feet. It can also look like you feeling quite often really stuck or really trapped. Like you don't really have say over your own life. Like you're in a certain situation and you feel like this is just where I have to be. This is just my lot in life. I can't do anything about it. I don't feel really any kind of sense of autonomy or freedom over my own life. And you just sort of have this feeling, this idea that you're feeling, just kind of trapped and stuck. And it doesn't really feel like there's much of a way out. Another sign that your needs are not being met is that you often feel really frustrated and worn out. And this can go with that feeling of being stuck. Like you just feel frustrated. You feel like there's not really a whole lot you can do. You just feel like you don't have say over your own life. You feel like you're just sort of going through the motions, and it's dissatisfying. It's frustrating. It's discouraging. You feel tired. You feel worn out. You don't really care all that much, but then you do because you feel really frustrated, and you just sort of go through your days just feeling kind of aimless, but you always have things you need to do. And it maybe even feels like your to-do list is 3 miles long, but it almost feels like, I don't know, there's no real point, but you do it, but then it doesn't feel satisfying and you just feel frustrated. The next sign is that you often feel really unappreciated. You feel unrecognized. You maybe even feel like you don't even matter all that much. Like what you're doing doesn't count. It's not significant. No one cares. Again, just kind of going through the motions. This can look like if you're a parent and you're just sort of isolated and parenting kind of day in and day out on your own and feel like, it's a very tough job and there's not a lot of reward for it and you feel alone in it. You feel frustrated by it. You feel like there's always stuff to do, but then it never really feels all that satisfying. It doesn't really feel like you're getting anywhere or accomplishing anything. And this can go also for your job. If you're working in a job where you're working really hard, you're putting a lot in, but it doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. Don't really feel appreciated. Don't really feel like you're making any kind of difference. You don't even maybe even like the work you do or believe in the work you do. That can be a sign that you are not meeting your emotional needs. Those emotional needs are not being met. Another sign is that you feel unaccomplished, where maybe you are getting things done, but again, it doesn't feel like it really matters or anyone cares or it's making a difference or it's meeting a standard that you have, but you feel like maybe you're working hard and putting a lot in, but it's just sort of spinning wheels and feels very dissatisfying. Another sign is you maybe feel lost. You feel aimless. Again, like we were talking about, I don't really feel like you have anywhere to plant your feet. You're just sort of going through the motions of life and don't really feel connected. Don't feel grounded. Don't feel purposeful. Don't really know where you're going or what you're doing or what the point is. Another sign is that you feel disconnected from both yourself, your community, and even the close people around you. You just feel like nothing again, nothing is all that important. You feel really isolated. You feel alone. You feel like no one really understands you. You feel like nothing really matters all that much, or maybe it doesn't matter to anyone else all that much. You don't feel connected to a community. You don't feel like you belong anywhere. You don't really feel close to anyone. And these are some really good signs, really key signs that your emotional needs are being met. And maybe you're not experiencing all of these. Maybe there's just like one or two where you're like, yeah, that one really sounds like me. But I just wanted to give sort of an overarching idea. If you're like, yep, a few of these really connect with me. Or maybe you're like, oh my gosh, all of these connect with me. And if that's true, just be gentle with yourself. Know that we are not necessarily encouraged in most societies to be really kind of looking out for our well-being and taking care of ourselves. We're often told that's selfish or it's too self-involved to be paying attention to what's important to us. And both of the things need to exist. We need to be contributing and connecting and giving and generous and building relationships with others. And we need to be contributing and connecting and building and building a relationship with ourselves. That both of those things are important, and one is not to the exclusion of the other, but both of them are important. And often, depending on how you were raised or where you were raised or what the philosophy was or what you were told to believe, it's often an overemphasis on others to the detriment of self, where we want to be giving to others out of a place of abundance, not out of a place of deprivation, out of self-denial, out of self-rejection. And so this is why it's important to be focusing on our emotional needs, to be giving to ourselves, to be building our relationship with ourselves so that we can give freely and fully and generously from an abundance of overflow. And then that is, that real life-giving generosity, that real life-giving love to others, to our community, to the people around us. So that's what we want to be doing. Why it is important, and I've talked about this before, why learning to love yourself and investing in yourself is actually one of the least selfish things that we can do. It's not selfish, because when we are investing in ourselves, we have so much more to give. And so if I haven't made the point already about why this work is important, then there is another reason to stick on the list, maybe reason 57, why doing the inner work is so much more important than many of us really realize or even invest in and kind of take seriously. So if you're struggling with a few of those, then let's look at what our basic needs are, so that we can understand why we might be feeling these ways, because we have been neglecting these needs. And you can look at these needs I'm going to list 9 of them according to Maslow's hierarchy, I can never say that word, of needs. After sort of our basic needs for like physical safety and shelter and water and food, right? After all those like survival needs are met, then we go up the hierarchy of our needs and we start to look at more of our emotional needs, right? So once those basic needs are met, then we go to the next level. And this is that next level, more of these emotional needs and really looking at making sure that these are a priority as well. So according to Maslow, these are our 9 basic emotional needs. And the first one is a sense of emotional safety and security. So not just physical safety and security, but also emotional safety and security, like relational safety and security. Feeling like it is safe for us to be ourselves with at least 1 or 2 people in our lives. Feeling like we are going to be loved and accepted for who we are by at least 1, maybe 2 people that we have in our lives right now, where we just feel the freedom to be ourselves. It feels safe to be us. And you know that feeling when there's certain people that you're around where you feel like you can just exhale, where you're like, I just feel lighter being around them. I just feel more free being around them. I'm not monitoring myself. I'm not analyzing everything that comes out of my mouth. I'm not going away from hanging out with them and replaying everything that I said or everything that I did and scrutinizing every last detail. I just kind of feel this lightness. I feel safe. I feel like I can talk to them. I feel like I can trust them. It's okay to be me with them. And that is an important need, to feel seen, to feel heard, to feel understood, to feel accepted. And, it's not going to be every single relationship that's going to be able to give that gift, just like we are not able to give that gift to every single person we come across. But that there's certain people in your life that you feel close to where you're just like, we just have this sort of this understanding of one another. And I have this like grace and acceptance for this person. And I see them and I value them. And, there's hopefully 1 or 2 people in your life that you have like that. And hopefully you are that for 1 or 2 people as well. The next basic emotional need is the need of volition. So you have say over your own life, over your own choices. And often we don't give ourselves volition, right? Because we get caught under people pleasing by wanting approval from others. So we make decisions that aren't necessarily true to who we are, but maybe we're trying to get approval or validation from our parents, from our partner, from, some kind of community that we're a part of, some kind of thing that we are a part of, a religious community or whatever that is, where we think that we have to adhere to a certain way that is in contradiction to who we really are and the things that are important to us, right? If your parents are like, you need to become a lawyer, and you're like, I want to become a circus performer. But you're like going off and going to law school, even though it's not even what you want, but that's what your parents value, where you're like, I am like, love to perform and I love to do tricks and I love to learn contortionism. I don't know, whatever that is. But you're like, this is what's important to me, but I'm not living that way because I'm looking for that approval. Now, maybe it is that someone has said to you, you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to be this, but then really kind of looking at, okay, can someone actually like physically restrain you from that? I hope not. I hope you're not in a situation like that, because that's a whole other conversation for another day. But are you not giving yourself permission to have say over your own life and your own choices? Now, it could be because of, again, that fear that someone else is not going to approve of it, somebody else is not going to support it, somebody else is not going to like it, but really just asking yourself, whose life am I living? And we're really working on, I've talked about this before, about that self-differentiation, where we've been raised so much to try and get, that our value, that we have to earn love and approval, that we have to hard earn it from the people around us. And maybe you were raised like that, where love was conditional. In your family, when maybe you're in a romantic relationship where love is very conditional, where you have to do what this person wants you to do. You have to comply to how this person wants you to exist. And so you think that if I do my own thing, then it might create a rift in those relationships. And I'm going to tell you, it might. But you are likely going to suffer a lot more by not having your own sense of volition, your own sense of say over your own life, than you are by creating distance in some of those very sort of controlling, stifling relationships. The next basic need is the need for attention. And that's just a basic human need. We need to feel like we're important. We just need to feel like we matter. We want to feel like at least some of the things that come out of our mouths are significant to another human being. It goes to our just like need for connection, right? As human beings, we do need genuine, authentic human connection. We need attention. We need to feel like people see us, like we matter, like our existence counts to other people. The next need is emotional connection. Again, similar to attention, but just feeling like there is that kind of deeper emotional connection. Like there's people that you can go to when you're going through a hard time. There's people you can share things that you're struggling with. There's people you can be honest with. There's people that are there for you, that have time for you. And I'm not saying that, as long as this person has to like throw everything aside whenever you need a moment from them, they have to, immediately be available to you, or else they're not a good friend. They don't really care. I'm not saying that, because the truth is that most of us can't do that for others because we have other things going on as well. So is it fair to expect that somebody else be that for us all the time? But I'm saying that, you have at least some people or one person in your life where you're like, I know that if I'm going through something, that they will be there for me in a capacity that matters, right? Doesn't mean that they're going to stop everything in their lives every time you're having a moment and you need to like debrief or to vent or to sort something out, but they're going to make time at some point soon, where you can say like, hey, do you have time to talk sometime today? Not like drop everything, I need you, but like, hey, do you have some time to talk? And I definitely have a couple people in my life like that I can go to. And if it's an emergency, I have people that I can say, hey, I'm in a crisis. Do you have a minute very soon? Right? And there are some people that do, unless, they're in their own crisis, and then, they need to be dealing with that themselves. But you feel just like an emotional connection. You feel like you matter to at least a couple people. The next need is social connection. And this is different from that emotional connection. This social connection is more about feeling a sense of belonging. Feel like you belong somewhere into something. If it's a community organization, if it's a cause of some sort, if it's some sort of lifestyle like veganism, or, only being part of a community that only purchases, pre-owned clothing and doesn't buy anything new, and just really into the kind of, sustainable stuff. Like if it's part of a spiritual or religious community, somewhere where you belong, like-minded people that have a common purpose, a common idea, a common cause, a common passion, and you feel connected. It can even just look like feeling a part of your community, where you chat with your neighbors, where when you go out for a walk, you see people and you smile, right? And you have maybe a brief little interaction with people that you don't know, like you could call them strangers, but just people in your neighborhood. Have a hello, have a how's your day. You just feel like you belong somewhere. You feel connected to something. Or maybe you live in one of those neighborhoods where everybody brings out their lawn chairs all summer and sits in their front yard, and the kids play on the street, and the grown-ups sit around and chat, and people are just sort of hanging out and they want to be together. And you feel sort of this sense of social connection, the sense of belonging somewhere to something. The next need is a need for privacy, a need for solitude, a need to just have quiet, alone time, to be with ourselves, to be with our thoughts, to process, to think, not overthink and overstress and perseverate, but just like contemplate things, get curious about things, have conversations with ourselves, just having some quiet. And in our culture, in Western culture at least, I'm sure other cultures as well, it's like kind of this go, 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 busy, 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 always doing something, always going from like first thing in the morning to the time your head hits the pillow, there's always something going on, and you haven't actually taken any time to connect with yourself, to have a little bit of quiet, to have a little bit of self-soothing. You haven't really had a moment to be with yourself, to build that relationship. And we wonder why we struggle with our relationship with ourselves, when we know that our our relationships with other three-dimensional beings require time, require attention. But we don't give that to ourselves, and then we don't understand why we don't have a good relationship with ourselves, why we don't feel good about ourselves, why we maybe even don't know who we are. because we're not taking that time. So that need for some solitude, some privacy, some just sort of space for us to be with us. The next need, going along with this sense of solitude and privacy, is having a sense of self. Really sort of knowing who you are, what's important to you, what do you value, what do you need? And hopefully you're starting to get a better sense from this list, but just really that sense of who you are. And we do this a lot. So in my membership community in the Shift Society, we have a whole masterclass series on building deep lasting confidence. It's a 3-series class on how to really develop deep lasting confidence. It comes with exercises and reflective questions and things to just really like build our relationship with ourselves so we can have a really strong sense of self, because that's the foundation of our existence, how we show up in the world, how we exist and interact with the world, is founded on how we feel about ourselves, our relationship with ourselves, the strength and security of that relationship. So do you have that? Do you have a strong sense of self? Is that a need that's being met? The next one is a sense of achievement. So we were talking about feeling lost, feeling purposeless, feeling just sort of like what you do doesn't matter. And really just looking at how a sense of achievement is important. And now it's not just about achieving whatever, it's about achieving things that are important to you. And this can go both ways, and go past and future. So really taking some time and looking at the things that you have achieved, right? Because often we forget that. We're just looking at the things we haven't achieved and where we're not in life. And we forget to look at how many things that we have already done that at one point were a goal that we have accomplished. And we forget to look at that and make that matter. We forget to really just recognize that and recognize ourselves for that. So do you have a sense of achievement of things that you have? Do you remember that? Do you remember to remember that? The things that you have achieved, and are there things that are important to you that you're working towards? Goals and a sense of contribution, a sense of purposefulness in our lives is incredibly important. But it has to align with the things that are important to us. If you're like, yeah, like I achieved driving all the way to work without getting into a car accident. Or without like screaming at a driver for cutting me off. If you're like, that is my achievement. But if like, that's not something that you struggle with, if like you're a pretty safe driver or you don't necessarily have road rage, then that might be an accomplishment. But if it's not something that's important to you, then it's not going to really matter, right? We can't just like make up stuff. It has to be things that are important to us. And we see ourselves growing, expanding, learning, moving forward. So really just looking at that. What in your life are you working towards? What have you worked towards and accomplished? Taking that success inventory and noticing that too. The next one is having a sense of meaning. Again, kind of going along with this achieving, just having a sense that you are contributing in some way, that you are connected to something bigger than yourself. It could be a cause that's important to you. It could be about being a parent and raising conscientious, kind, compassionate, confident human beings. That could be what your purpose is. It could be being a part of a movement, some kind of social justice movement. About it could be about anything. It could be about human rights. It could be about trafficking, child trafficking. It could be about child marriage. It could be about working towards ending racism. It could be whatever it is, women's rights, gay rights, like whatever that is, whatever is important to you. And you're like, this, I feel like I have this sense of meaning, this sense of purpose, like I'm contributing to something bigger than myself. My life is bigger than just me. That is important for us. I think sometimes in an individualistic culture, we forget about that. That, it's not about being like, it's all about me, because that's not satisfying. We do have to be taking care of ourselves. We do have to be focusing on ourselves. We do have to be investing in ourselves. And so it's not a but and it's not an or. And we need to be focusing on things greater than ourselves, contributing to things greater than ourselves, investing in things greater than ourselves. That is a fundamental human need for our emotional well-being? Which one of these are you like, yep, this one has been lacking and I can see it and I can feel it. And I know that it's connected to those feelings that you described earlier, Julia, about feeling isolated, feeling stuck, feeling unappreciated, feeling unimportant, feeling lost, feeling disconnected. Yeah, I see that. I see how this is. And this is something that I'm going to work on. Let me know in the comment section below. Which of these are you like, yep, yep. But I don't want you to get overwhelmed. I don't want you to be like, oh my gosh, there's so many. I'm not going to do any because it's just too much and I can't handle it. That's not helpful either. Pick one. Start with one. It's not go big or go home. It's go small to moderate. Make it doable, achievable, and sustainable. So just pick one and let that be good. You get to decide. You can decide that it's overwhelming and you can't do it all and give up. You can make that choice and have that thought. Or you can have the thought, I'm going to let myself start with one. I'm going to focus on that. I'm going to make that important. And I'm going to allow that to be good. And I'm going to be proud of myself for that. You get to decide that. If you want to go deeper into this work, I've got two things for you. My book, Drive Your Own Darn Bus, really teaches us about our needs, goes deeply into it, looks at our different needs, looks at how to manage our minds, looks at how to regulate our own emotions. If you're struggling to meet your needs, it explains why and what you can do to overcome that. So grab my book, Drive Your Own Darn Bus. It's about getting in charge of your own mind, your own emotions, and your own life. So get that book. Link is in the description below. Pretty much any major book retailers, mostly worldwide, you can get it at right now. And then also get on the wait list for the Shift Society. Get the book in the meantime, get a head start, and then join us in the Shift Society where we are taking this work deeper, learning deeper concepts, learning how to apply them, being accountable, being a part of a community, and continuing to work on better, feeling better, living better, loving better, having better, experiencing better for this short time that we are on this planet. Get the book, get on the wait list for the Shift Society. Let me know what's going on with you in the comment section below. And until next time, take good care.